Hey everybody, and welcome back. My name is Bennett Meares. I'm a data engineer, and I'm the author of the open source library Meerschaum, which is meant to make your life as a data analyst easier. In the last episode, we looked at setting up Meerschaum for the first time. Today, I'm going to show you how to work with multiple instances or databases and give you your first look into the Python API. Let's get started. When you first start Meerschaum, your prompt will tell you that you're connecting to SQL main. But what does that even mean? Well, SQL main is the built-in connector to the default database that you start with the Meerschaum stack. In the last episode, when we ran the command stackup-d-db, that starts up effectively what is SQL main. It's timescale DB. That means commands we run will happen with respect to this database. So when I run show pipes, it will show me all of the pipes that exist on SQL main. You can change the instance or the database that we're connecting to with the instance keyword. Another built-in connector is SQL local. SQL local is just a SQLite file that Meerschaum has in your configuration directory. So when I run the same command, this will actually happen with respect to that database. Here we're looking at an entirely different set of pipes. It's worth noting you can specify the instance with the I flag, so even though the prompt says right now we're connected to SQL local, I can override that and show pipes from SQL main. I'd like to show you a practical example I have running on one of my Raspberry Pis. Let's take a look at the command in cron tab. Here we are syncing pipes, that is, we're adding new data. Pipes that have the connector plugin sense. In a future episode, I'm going to show you what exactly a Meerschaum plugin is and how you can make your own. But for now, just know we are reading data from the connected environment sensor. And finally, I specify the instance that the pipe resides on. Remember, an instance is just a database, but it can also be a Meerschaum API server. So the way this command can be interpreted is read from plugin sense, read from the sensor, and push that data onto the instance API MRSM, which is just a web API. And that brings us to our next section, where how can you start your own API? So the Meerschaum API is a web server you can stand up between your users and your database. Let's run the command mrsm start API to see what I'm talking about. And if we don't specify the instance, it'll use the default, which is SQL main. So in your web browser, navigate to localhost port 8000, and you'll be granted with this login screen. Meerschaum has a simple login system, so you can create users for each member of your team if you want. To make a new account, just click this create account link, and I think our username will be test123, and our password, let's make it test123, and click sign up to make a new user account. And this is the Meerschaum web console, which is a graphical interface to manage your backend. Here you can manage your pipes, so if you're working with a larger team and not everybody is comfortable using the terminal, this is a great solution. So now that we've started our web API, let me show you how to connect other computers running Meerschaum to our new API instance. So on a different computer, I'm just going to use my laptop. Run the command bootstrap connectors. Remember, we have to build a connector that Meerschaum will use to communicate with our new instance. Rather than creating a SQL connector like we did last time, choose option number 1 to make a new API connector. I'm going to use the label demo. The host is the IP address of the instance, so I'm going to use localhost. The password, remember, was test123, and the username was also test123. HTTP is fine, and the port was the default 8000. Hit yes to confirm, and we've just created our new instance connector. A good way to test that our connector actually worked is with the login command. So run the command login API demo, and if it works, we've successfully registered our new instance connector. Now that we've created and verified our new connection called API demo, run the instance command to change the instance that we are talking to. This is the same thing as using the -i flag on all of our commands, so any commands we run now will actually happen with respect to our web server. So when I run show pipes, it's the same pipes because it's on our computer, But if you look at the logs here, it actually fetched the JSON and printed this over the internet. So this is what I'm doing with my Raspberry Pi. The Pi itself is too weak to host any substantial database. So instead, I have my main database in the cloud, and the Pi posts new data over the internet using a Meerschaum web API. Let's finish today's demonstration with a quick look into the Python API. Meerschaum has a lot of useful functions you can use in your scripts, but right now I just want to focus on the pipe object. To create a new pipe, it's the mrsm.pipe object, and you specify the keys of the pipe. So in this case, plugin Noah is the connector that I'm using, and I'm using the label weather for my metric. And finally, the location is an optional tag, so I'm using Clemson as my location. The optional instance keyword is how we can specify which database to point Meerschaum towards. And here I'm specifying API demo, which remember is the connector that we just built. Now that we have a pipe object, we can run the command get data to return a pandas data frame. You can also add new data into your pipe with pipe.sync. And the way pipe.sync works is that if the rows already exist in the table, it actually will not add them. We can verify this with the getRowCount method. So before we sync, we have 1772 rows, but if we run pipe.sync and then get the row count again, there's no change in the row count. It will only add rows when we have new data to add. So here's a good place to wrap things up, and you have 2 homework assignments for this week. First, start the Meerschaum web API and play around with the web console, see how you like it. Second, install Meerschaum on multiple computers and try connecting them to a central instance, whether that's a SQL server or an API instance. You can check the last video for instructions on how to create a new SQL connector. Well, that's it for today. I hope today's lesson has been helpful for you, and in future episodes, I'm going to show you how to integrate Meerschaum into your existing projects. Thanks for watching, and I hope Meerschaum can make your life as a data analyst easier.